The nurse avoided my eyes as she stepped out of the emergency room. She didn't have to say a word. I already understood. Her gloves were tinted pink, the color of blood diluted with water. There wasn't much of it, but enough to tell me what I didn't want to know. My wife was inside. Our unborn twins weren't. She spoke softly, though her words blurred into the hum of machines and the antiseptic air. All I could hear was a slow, steady beep of a monitor and a hollow quiet that settled over everything. Then the sheriff entered, hat in hand, face arranged like he'd practiced in the mirror. "There's been an accident," he said, as if I hadn't already seen the mangled wreck that had once been her car. The driver was Derek Hall. The name struck like a spark. Senator Hall's boy. The sheriff couldn't meet my gaze. His silence said everything. Best to let it go. The Halls owned the county, owned the people, the law, and now my grief. Through the glass, I saw my wife's motionless hand resting on white sheets. 8 months. 2 heartbeats gone. And me, Sergeant Major Nathan Ghost Carter, told to accept it and move on. For over 2 decades, I'd hunted war criminals, men who hid their sins behind uniforms, money, and prayer. But nothing teaches you how to face evil when it wears a local name and smiles in your church pew. Derek Hall had been drunk, filming himself behind the wheel, laughing just before the crash. I'd seen the clip before it vanished, deleted and replaced by a polished statement about a tragic misunderstanding. The sheriff came later with condolences and excuses, saying the boy was suffering, that his trauma was punishment enough. While he spoke, I wasn't listening. I was calculating seconds, distances, details, not planning revenge. Not yet. First came truth. Truth is always the first weapon. That night I sat beside my wife's bed, surrounded by the hum of machines, pretending to breathe for her. She didn't stir, but I spoke anyway. They won't bury you beneath their lies. 3 days later, I began digging, not with violence, but with questions. Quiet ones. To a bartender who'd seen Derek's car leave the club that night. To a nurse who'd noticed the sheriff's nephew falsifying the toxicology report. To a hotel clerk who remembered Derek wasn't alone in that room. I didn't bribe or threaten anyone. I didn't have to. They all knew who I was. The ghost who came back when the truth refused to stay buried. Piece by piece, it all came together. A pattern of corruption, sloppy and desperate. Senator Hall had covered up worse, but this time his son's arrogance had left cracks too wide to fill. By the end of the week, I had everything: video evidence, blood tests, sworn statements. Still, I waited. Anger only matters when it's patient. In war, you learn that killing a man is easy. Watching him destroy himself takes discipline. When I finally met the senator, it was at a charity gala. I wore my dress blues. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Sergeant Major Carter," he said warmly. "An honor. The honor's mine, Senator," I replied, handing him a small silver drive. "You'll find everything on here: the crash video, the edited report, the blood results, and the girl your son was with that night." His smile froze, then cracked. Behind him, flashbulbs popped and laughter filled the room. But his eyes gave him away. Panic. He knew I wasn't bluffing. Men like me don't bluff. The next morning, the story broke across every major outlet. Anonymous leaks. Derek Hall arrested. The sheriff suspended. The senator resigning for family reasons. They called it scandal. It wasn't. It was balance. That night, I visited my wife's grave. The cemetery was quiet except for the wind moving through the gates. I laid a folded newspaper on the headstone, the front page showing Derek's indictment for vehicular manslaughter. "They'll never touch you again," I whispered. People think justice feels like triumph. It doesn't. It feels like silence after fire goes out, like the world holding its breath. I sat in my truck for a long time, watching the hospital lights flicker in the distance like dying stars. The sheriff, the senator, the son, they built their empire on privilege and fear, and I brought it down without firing a shot. Proof was all it took. My wife used to say I was too calm for this world, as if it were a flaw. But calm is what kept me alive. Calm is what ended it. When I finally started the engine, The radio buzzed with news of another scandal, another fall from grace. The world doesn't collapse in fire and noise. It fades with a quiet realization that the ghost is still out there. Justice was a revenge. It was the simple, heavy peace of knowing the truth had outlived them all.